Welcome to the Business Spotlight series. My name is Dona Kappmeyer, and I'm the CEO and firm owner of Capital Game Plan Consulting and Action Coach in South Texas. And I am going to be your host for today. I'm very excited to have our special guest, Sean Reiter, on our show. Sean is the owner of Bloom City Coffee in Portland, Texas. And today we're going to speak with Sean about his journey to get to where he's at today and the challenges and successes of owning and operating a business. If this is your first time on our channel, please be sure to like and subscribe so that you can get notifications when we publish new content. Well, Sean, welcome to our show. It's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the invitation, Donna. Appreciate
You
it.
betcha. You
Happy to be
betcha.
here.
I'm looking forward to the conversation today and learning some new things about you and learning some new things about Bloom City Coffee in Portland, Texas.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to share.
Great. So let's go ahead and talk about structure. You got a little bit of a unique business structure. So if you can kind of share with our audience about what that looks like.
Yeah, so the current structure for Bloom City Coffee right now, I have five business partners in this business, and we all hold equal equity ownership in the business.
Okay.
I don't recommend that type of structure. Um, the reason that we have that structure is that there's a story behind it, really, and I'll try to give you the nutshell version. So Bloom City Coffee Company started off as two separate companies.
Okay.
We had a retail shop called Bloom Coffee Works, and then there was the roasting part of the business that was called Harbor City Coffee Roasters. And Harbor City Coffee Roasters was roasting the coffee for Bloom Coffee Works, and that's how we met, and we became friends quickly. And we operated separately for about a year. There was three owners in that company, and then three owners in Bloom Coffee Works. It's myself, my brother-in-law, and my sister.
Okay.
And we decided about a year into the partnership to merge companies. And we were all kind of new to business, or business to this degree, I should say. We were all kind of new to it. And when we structured Bloom City Coffee Company, everybody wanted equal ownership, which at the time seemed like an okay idea because every one of the partners were going to be working in the company. So
Okay.
everybody had a job to do, right? And it worked fine. It worked great up until COVID. When COVID came along, we had to shut down for 10 weeks, and people still had bills to pay, and so uh, all the partners pretty much kind of went their separate ways, got jobs. My brother-in-law joined the Coast Guard, got shipped off to the East Coast. A couple of the other partners, went off and started doing other full-time jobs. And so the coffee shop was kind of left in limbo, so to speak. And flash forward a couple of years, we got through COVID, we figured everything back out again, and we're operating. We had to, find our suppliers again. It was basically having to learn how to do the business all over again. And we'd only been in business a couple of years at that point, and we had just finally started getting everything figured out and started running on an even keel. And then COVID, threw all that out the window. So then I took about another 2 more years to figure everything back out again. And today, I still have the five business partners, but everybody's kind of acting, it's more of like a silent partnership.
Okay.
And I handle, I have shop managers and everything that handle the operations, the daily operations of the store. So I really kind of have more of a high level view of Bloom City Coffee from where I'm sitting. And so that's kind of the structure that we're at now. It is an LLC partnership.
But you mentioned now the other ones are kind of in a silent partner role. So you're the primary decision maker then?
I'm the primary decision maker for the time being. Yeah. If we have any,
Okay.
if any, we have any, crazy big stuff, if people want to invest in the business or something, then I get the rest of everybody involved. But for the most part, yeah, I'm the primary decision maker.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit how you got the name Bloom City.
Okay. Bloom City Coffee Company. All right. So when you're making a pour over coffee, let me back up a little bit. We had to get into one of our local grocery stores here in Texas. HEB is, one of the top grocery chains in the state. Everybody loves them. We really wanted to be inside of our local HEB. And so I went and pitched to the board at their headquarters, and I picked the first business plan that I pitched to them. They did not like it, and they said, "No, we don't like it." So we came back, reformulated, came up with a new idea to do specialty coffee, locally roasted, and do hand brewed pour overs, things of that nature, right? Just a more unique experience for the HEB shoppers. And when I went back and pitched that one, they said, "Oh, this is great. This is in line with what we're trying to do, right?" And so the when we were coming up with the name for Bloom Coffee Works, that Bloom Coffee Works wasn't even on the list of names. We had probably 180, 190 different name ideas that we were trying to figure out. And while we were talking about it, we were sitting in my living room, and Christian, my brother-in-law, we were talking about the art of the pour over, and one of the very first steps of making a pour over is you have to allow the coffee grounds to bloom. And what that is the gases being released out of the coffee grounds after you saturate the grounds, right? And I said, "Oh man, well that's an important step of brewing coffee. Why don't we say Bloom Coffee Works, right?" And they said, "No, we don't like that. That's a dumb idea." But after messing around with the design, our original logo design was kind of a rough sketch of the caffeine chemical compound, the chemical diagram of caffeine. And it just so happened that those two molecular structures worked perfectly as the O's in Bloom Coffee Works. And so we ended up going with Bloom Coffee Works. And then when we decided to merge, I mentioned earlier that the roasting company was called Harbor City Coffee Roasters.
Hmm.
When we merged, we just smashed the two names together and became Bloom City Coffee Company. But there's also another meaning to it. The different levels of roasting, coffee roasting. We roast all of our coffee to a city roast or a full city. So those are the two types of main roasting profiles that we roast our coffee to. So it's kind of a dual meaning, really.
Interesting. That I would have had no idea. So thank you for sharing the history behind that name
Hmm.
and how its relevance is to making coffee. That's
Right.
fantastic. So you've merged the companies. You were manufacturing, basically making coffee and then selling it. So what do things look like right now? Who does your business or businesses serve? Who's your ideal customer?
Right now, our ideal customers are anyone who loves coffee.
Okay.
Um, this is not, it's not a cheap coffee. It's a specialty grade coffee, which is the highest grade coffee that anyone on the planet can buy. Um, we'd probably have another discussion on what specialty grade coffee is really to get into detail, but
All right.
um, we only serve or we only roast specialty grade coffee. So it's the highest grade coffee. We start with green beans, and then we carefully profile roast each region, each bean to highlight the natural flavors that are in that coffee. And so if you go and you purchase a Central American coffee like Brazil, a Brazilian coffee, or a Costa Rican coffee, that's going to have a natural, different flavor profile than an African coffee because of altitude changes, soil conditions, wind patterns, um, you know, uh, the growing conditions, if it has more shade, all that kind of stuff plays a role in it. And so our ideal customers are people that appreciate and want to have the finer side of coffee, right? And there's a lot of health benefits to it as well. All of our coffee is organic. We don't use any, we don't buy, it's all fair trade organic. We don't buy any cheap stuff. And so that's our ideal customer and our ideal client.
Very well. So it's premium coffee, specialty grade.
Hmm.
So there's some big competitors, chain competitors out there in the market. What does that look like from a comparison?
There are some competitors. In the world of specialty coffee, there's there's not a lot of big chain competitors because of the cost of it, right? And so, like, if I was going to tell you the competitors in my town that I'm in, there's really only two. We have Starbucks,
Hmm.
right, and then Seven Brew. and those are pretty much the two. And Seven Brew just opened, just recently opened. But as far as specialty coffee goes, I have no competitors in where we're at in our town. There are some in the local area, within 10-mile drive. Um, but this market, this market here south of San Antonio, there it's the specialty coffee world is kind of unfamiliar to people,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of people are used to going to Starbucks or going to Stripes, or going to the gas station, getting coffee, or just buying their coffee from the supermarket and then just making it at home. So the competitive landscape for us is really we are competing with the big, you know, corporation coffee shops. There's no other specialty shops here in this town. So yeah, we on the global scale, there are some big specialty. We also roast and we mail our. We'll send our coffee to anybody that wants to buy it anywhere in the world. And so there are some competitors. There's some big names out there like Blue Bottle. Blue Bottle Coffee is a specialty brand, and that's a big brand. Um, there's a few other, Stumptown. There's some big brands out there, but not many. Not as many as you'd think there'd be compared to the commercial and commodity grade coffees.
So getting your name out there with those bigger name competitors, what have you found to be effective marketing strategies for you to get them to come by, either to purchase online or to come in the store and buy a cup of brew?
So the most effective for us, since I don't have a $400 million marketing budget like some of the big guys, is I mean, social media. Social media plays a huge role in it because it's low cost, for the business owner. But not only that, getting involved in coming out and getting involved in the local, like chamber events, chamber of commerce events, even going to farmers markets and just setting up a little table and putting some bags of coffee out there. There's people that are visiting from out of town. They hear about it. They try a bag. They love it. They take it back and they talk to their friends. We actually have some folks in San Antonio that came down and discovered it while they were visiting some friends, and they love it. And so, um, yeah, most effective. That's going to be the most effective for us now. Until I do get that 120, $200 million marketing budget to really put some Super Bowl ads out and stuff, then we're relying on free or low cost social media marketing. Anytime we can work with the local sports teams, things like that, just getting our name and our brand and our logo out there so people know what to look for.
Very good. Thanks for sharing that. So let's look out to the future a little bit. Where do you see Bloom City Coffee being in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, I'd tell you where I'd like to see it. I'd really like to see our roasting operations grow.
Okay.
Um, we, as from the business perspective, our margins are far better on the roasting and wholesale side, right? It costs a lot of money to run a coffee shop. It cost, we got 20 something employees at one location. Then we have office staff, and at the roastery, we have four people,
Okay.
and they're roasting all the beans. And so, from the business side, the roasting coffee is more profitable for us. And so, I'd like to see the roastery grow. Of course, we need a bigger facility. We need to be able to have more capital to purchase a larger amount of beans at one time, green beans, because coffee's a commodity, right? And so the price of coffee fluctuates just like oil or anything else that's in the
Mhm.
in the market, right? And so when the whole idea is to buy low, right? Buy it when it's cheap and maintain your pricing structure. So in order to be able to do that, we have to have a larger facility to store the beans. They have to be in climate controlled storage.
Okay.
And so anyway, that's what we're putting a lot of our focus in right now is growth on the roasting.
Very good. Are you looking at expanding on the retail side, more locations in that 3 to 5 year?
We actually just opened a new location in our town. We've found that opening kiosk style coffee counters is something that we can do and we can do well. So it doesn't require a lot of capital. It doesn't require a huge expense on the machines and things that it would take to run a full cafe. And we still maintain good profit margins on those. And so we have thought about even opening up in other HEBs. Well, I've talked to HEB about opening up other counters inside other stores in Texas. So that is a possibility. But like I said, really the focus is going into the roasting.
Very good. You mentioned you got about 20 plus or minus employees, and then on the retail side, and then four on the I'll say the manufacturing side. Uh, what is kind of your secret sauce to recruiting and hiring staff?
I don't know if there's a secret sauce, but I do have an interview process,
Okay.
and we do. There was a paper written by Berkeley University, I don't know, a while back. I think back in the 90s or maybe early 2000s, and it had 17 targeted questions that you could ask people to understand their behavioral tendencies and their personality types, right? And the way they answered those questions would build a personality profile.
Hmm.
And so I just taught my manager, hey, this is what we're looking for. We need people that, you got to have outgoing folks to be baristas, people that aren't afraid to talk to people. And, there are certain personality profiles that work better,
Hmm.
right? And so our interview process, I think, helps out with finding the right team members in there. Um, we have been blessed to have a great team. We always have a great team, and it is, being that it's a coffee shop, um, there's a high turnover there, right? Because a lot of the times the people are coming in, they're just graduate of high school or they're
Hmm.
college students, and so it's a stepping stone. It's a job for them to get to the next step, right? I only have a few employees there that are long-term employees that are probably making a career out of this with me, and I mean, it's a team. It's part of my team. And so, yeah, I would say our interview process is probably the best way for us to find the right team members, the right individuals.
They say it's you experience the effects of a good hire for a long time, and you experience the effects of a bad hire for a long time. And if you put that groundwork in advance before you bring them on board, you're more likely to experience a good hire.
That's true, and I will expand on that a little bit. We find out pretty quickly within the first few weeks if a person's not going to be right for the role. And so when we do, um, that's they move on.
Okay.
We move them on. So we find out quickly it's not going to work out. Appreciate everything you've been doing. We have a 60-day training program,
Okay.
and we find out definitely within that time frame.
Very nice. Very nice. So you're good about not letting folks who are not that ideal person linger if they're not a good fit.
Correct. Yeah,
You're gonna take action on that. That's,
absolutely.
that's
You've
awesome.
heard the old adage, one bad apple spoils the bunch, right?
It
So
does.
we don't want one bad apple in there.
Very good. So let's talk a little bit about success for you and maybe some mentors who have been some influences in your life or even books, if you want to reference that have had an impact on where you're at today.
I have yeah, I've had interactions with very prominent businessmen. I don't really want to name them, but I've gotten advice from them. I wouldn't say that I've asked them to formally, give me a mentorship, right? But I've had lunches and dinners with guys, and I've asked them questions. And there are a couple of individuals that do give me good mentorship. But for the most part, the way I grew up, I didn't grow up with privileges, and and so I had to kind of learn all that stuff on my own. And so I'm a Marine Corps veteran, and when I was in Iraq, I read a book called The Warren Buffett Way, and we didn't have a lot of reading material at that time, so I just grabbed whatever was in the box that I could read. And that book really discusses his strategies and investment, but there was one area of the book that I read that really kind of I clinged on to, and it was entrepreneurship, because I didn't grow up knowing what entrepreneurship was or any of that stuff. And so I clinged on to it and decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and relied on books and internet. But this is late 90s, early 2000s. Internet wasn't real prominent. There wasn't YouTube out there to go, have people give me, free YouTube lessons on how to run businesses and things like that. And so I had to get books, right? And then talk to people that uh, maybe had been there before. And again, I didn't have those kind of people in my network, and so I had to build that. So anyway, the last book I read, and I'll read books multiple times, right? Because you never know. You might go through, you read a book, and then a couple years later, I'll read it again. So the last one I just read again was a book called Never Eat Alone. And that's actually that book talks all about building your network. It's how important your network is, right? Because you're not going to do anything by yourself. You need help. You got to have people help you do that. And so that's the last book I read. But I like to every now and then I'll get into some fictions, to try to take my mind off of the business world a little bit. But yeah, uh, Never Eat Alone, great book. And I can even give you like my top five reading list, really. Maybe you can put that in the description or something.
Yeah, of course I can. I'd love to do that. And
Yep.
I like the fact that you talk about one is having people surrounding yourself, meeting with folks, even if it's just a lunch or a dinner, and then you know you can't out earn what you learn, and reading those books is so critical, and that continuous learning is so important being an entrepreneur to get better and better and better.
Hmm.
And there's so much, a lot of these books, and even with our programs that we have, there's so much content. And a lot of times it takes going through it over and over and over, and you're just going to get pieces each time, but you're going to get different pieces each time. And
That's right.
it's too much. It's too much all at once. So thanks for sharing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's also important to maintain consistent uh, coaching, I guess, maintain consistent coaching because, and when I say coaching, I mean, you could be talking to your buddies, another business
Hmm.
owner. He might have a totally different business in a different industry, but you're talking about problems that he's having, talking about, and figuring out how solutions that he's figuring out or that they're figuring out may help you in figuring out your solutions.
You bet. And I'm glad you brought that up because more often than not, probably 80%, we want to use Pareto principle of 80/20 rule. Even though you're in a different business, you're experiencing the same kind of issues. And so it doesn't matter a lot of the times what business you're in because you're going to have the same challenges.
Absolutely.
Love that. So speaking of that, if there's any advice that you would like to give our business owner audience, what would that be?
Uh, Always be ready to adapt. Always be ready to adapt to your environment, to your market. And man, I can't even stress the importance of your mindset. You have got to keep a steady mindset. It's so easy to get distracted by something that's going on in your life or something's going on around you, in the world globally. We just had a huge hiccup in our operations because of coffee prices, green coffee prices coming out of Brazil.
Yeah.
And we had to pivot. We had to figure out a way to pivot and adapt quickly because you don't have a lot of time. You maybe have a day, a couple of days to make a decision. And so being ready to adapt and having that mindset and just I think the mental preparation is the biggest importance, I think, in that, in my opinion, at least.
Well said. Is there any other information you'd like to share about you or the coffee company or any other advice you'd like to provide our audience?
Um, Not that I could think of right now. I mean, yeah, if you want to check out Bloom City Coffee Company, we have website, social media. If you want to get a hold of me through any of those means, probably social media pages, you can reach out. The girl that I have handling the social media will let me know, and yeah,
And what is your website for our group?
it is bloomcitycoffee.com.
Awesome. BloomCityCoffee.com. Y'all pick that up. Go check it out. Sean, thank you so much for sharing your story. This has been fantastic. I know that I've learned a lot and I appreciate that. This is the Business Spotlight series with Dona Kappmeyer from Capital Game Plan Consulting and Action Coach KGP, along with Sean Reiter from Bloom City Coffee. I'm going to re-say that again. This is a Business Spotlight series with Dona Kappmeyer from Capital Game Plan Consulting and Action Coach KGP, along with Sean Reiter from Bloom City Coffee. Please be sure to like and subscribe so you can continue to see our great content. Thank you so much for being with us today. Sean, thank you for being on our show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well done.